Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Well, the objects that were spotted over Ukraine that were reported by astronomers last year in a paper that was basically, a lot of debunkers said it was incomplete, and some of them actually called it a hoax. Well, as it turns out, those objects are non-human objects. They're obviously, these objects are something that's being operated by non-human intelligences, because it is a technology that the human race does not have. And anyway, so basically, I guess it's all over. It's all over, but the crying now for the debunkers. We're getting very close to the end game now. A lot of you probably remember last September there was this group in Ukraine. I'm going to go over their latest paper. This group in Ukraine came out with a paper, astronomers, and they indicated that they were seeing objects flying over Ukraine that they had no explanation for, really. And now a lot of debunkers came out and said that the paper that they came out with was incomplete. There was people like Keith Clore came out and said, had a lot of derogatory statements made about it, saying that there's not enough information here. The paper needs to be peer reviewed and all that kind of thing. And then you had Mick West coming out, and actually he called the paper an outright hoax, right? And then he claimed that the objects that they were seeing were either insects or birds. And then not long after that, you had Avi Loeb. He came out. He's a Harvard scientist. He came out, and he was actually approached by people within the government within the Arrow office, and they asked him to look at this and come up with a scientific explanation for it, and he said that they're probably military shells. Well, guess what? All those people are wrong. Mick West is wrong. Avi Loeb is wrong. Now, again, to Avi Loeb's credit, though, he was basing his opinion on known science. Obviously, these things are exhibiting technology that's beyond any science that we know. So that makes it clear now that these objects that were being seen over Ukraine are not it's something that could have been manufactured by humankind or operated by humankind. So there we have more fuel to the fire, more proof, right, that these things are alien in nature. There's no question, right? There's no question now. Now, last week, Chris Lehto published a YouTube video, and I will leave the link for it. A very good video, and it's entitled "UFOs Over Ukraine, Not Birds or Insects." And in that video, he received some papers. New papers, updated papers from one of the astronomers, Boris Zolyev. Basically, Lehto goes through these papers, and they have more information now. They have more data that these astronomers have put together, and now this shows that these objects are not birds, they're not insects, and they're not artillery shells. They're not. They could not be. And we're going to go over some of this information here. For one thing, some of these objects, and by the way, these objects cannot be seen. They're very hard to detect. It's very difficult to detect. In fact, I'm going to read some of this paper here that was sent to Chris Lehto from Boris Zolyev. Actually, it says here, the main astronomical observatory of Ukraine conducts an independent study of unidentified phenomena in the atmosphere. Our astronomical work is daytime observations of meteors and space invasions. Unidentified anomalous air and space objects are deeply concealed phenomena. The main feature of the UAP is its extremely high speed. The eye does not fix phenomena lasting less than 1/10 of a second. It takes 4/10 of a second to recognize an event. Ordinary photo and video recordings will not capture the UAP. To detect UAP, we need to fine-tune the equipment, shutter speed, frame rate, and dynamic range. So basically, in order to see these things, they're going so fast, right? These objects that they have been seeing are going so fast that you need to have specialized video equipment in order to capture them, right? In order to know that they're there. And so that's what they've been doing. And these objects, some of them are at least apparently 100 meters across, which equals about 326 feet. And some of them have very large angular dimensions, right? And actually, now they describe two different kinds of objects in their original paper, right? Cosmics were outside of the troposphere, right? And phantoms that they were talking about were objects that they were seeing within the troposphere. But according to Lehto, they're basically the same kind of object. Basically, it depends on where you're seeing it. If they're outside of the troposphere, and by the way, the troposphere is the lowest, according to the dictionary, is the lowest region of the atmosphere, extending from the Earth's surface to a height of about 3.7 to 6.2 miles from the Earth's surface. So if it's a cosmic, if one of these objects that are they see outside of the troposphere is a cosmic, and then it's the same kind of object. If they'll call them a phantom if they're within the troposphere. So that's one thing, and and they're traveling so fast that they can't detect them with regular equipment, regular systems. And here's the other great part about it. Some of these objects that they've been detecting, they're going so fast, right? They're traveling at Mach 60. You know how fast that is? Mach 60? Think about it. That's over 46,000 miles per hour. There are objects flying over Ukraine at over 46,000 miles per hour. Okay. And see, they were able to prove that these things, I mean, they did some examples to show that these things aren't insects. Like they did some extra legwork here to prove that they're not insects. They did extra legwork to prove that they're not military shells. And one of the things that they were able to determine is that these objects, they could turn around, do basically a U-turn at incredible speeds, and then just shoot off in a opposite direction. So it's over. As far, I haven't heard since this video came out last week from Chris Lehto. I haven't seen anything, actually. I haven't seen anything from any of the debunkers who were making these claims last year. I haven't heard anything. I've just checked out Mick West's Twitter feed. I haven't seen anything where he's making any sort of an apology. He should be, because he was totally wrong. He actually called it a hoax. Remember, he actually claimed it was a hoax at the time. That's because he hates the debunkers. They hate this kind of stuff. They hate stuff that proves them wrong. And I'll guarantee you, right, when they do finally get around to talking about this, they're gonna pull out all the stops in an effort to debunk it. But guess what, folks? There's no way that these kind of objects are could have been man-made. There's nothing that could. We don't have anything that could travel 46,000 miles per hour. Okay, that's it, and make incredible turns at incredible speeds, right? So it's not our military shells. It's not insects or birds or anything like that. For one thing, they had cameras, these specialized cameras at two different locations, right? Filming these things at 75 miles apart. So you have one camera, here in one area, and another camera in Kyiv, and then another camera in another city, 75 miles away, pointing in the same area of the sky, and they both captured that same object. So it's not going to be an insect, right? It can't be. But anyway, they go through. There's the papers here that there were actually Chris Lehto in his video. He had links in there to the two papers that he received from this astronomer from Ukraine, and here I'll read a little bit more of this. It says, according to our data, there are two types of UAP, which we conventionally call one, cosmics, and two, phantoms. We note that cosmics are luminous objects brighter than the background of the sky. Phantoms are dark objects with a contrast, according to our data, from 50% to several percent. Both types of UAP exhibit extremely high movement speeds. Their detection is a difficult experimental problem. They are a byproduct of our main astronomical work, daytime observations of meteors and space intrusions. So, I mean, this is something that they're in the course of their studies, they saw they're seeing these things, these weird objects flying at incredible speeds, moving around in ways that our aircraft, human-made aircraft, cannot move around in. So, guess what? Again, like I've been saying here, we've reached endgame. We've reached endgame as far as Ukraine's concerned, as far as those UFOs in Ukraine. Now, Avi Loeb, when he came out with his statements, he was saying say he was basically rushed into making his little report on that. But again, Avi Loeb's conclusions were based on known physics, and now these things are obviously working outside of what we know in physics. I mean, they're working beyond the physics that we know. They're doing things that as far as we know, our scientists know, are not possible. So that means that there's most certainly I think this proves, as far as I'm concerned, this proves that there is an extraterrestrial presence here. I mean, forget about all the other stuff, right? I mean, we've been talking about for years, but there's all sorts of kinds of proof that has amassed over the decades, right? But this is additional. If you didn't believe it before, do you believe it now? Because guess what? It's real. They're really here. It's really happening. Yes, there are things here. And what are they doing? Who knows, right? Are they checking out what's going on over there? Maybe they're watching the war. Maybe they're watching us animals kill each other. Maybe that's what they're doing. Who knows, right? But they're there, and they're seeing them in Ukraine, flying over Ukraine at incredible speeds. I'm assuming that they're probably all over the planet. If we all set up specialized equipment like these astronomers did in Ukraine, I'm sure we would be seeing them flying around too. These things they're keeping themselves invisible. They don't want us to know what they're doing. They don't want us to know that they're watching us. They don't want us to know, these beings, wherever they're from, right? They don't want us to know what they're up to, right? And this proves it. This proves it. I mean, if it wasn't for these astronomers using this specialized equipment, specialized cameras to actually capture these things, because they're going so fast, you can't see them. If one went flying over your house, you wouldn't see it because it's invisible. That's because there's something here. There's a presence here that's non-human, that has technology that we can't even dream of, or that our top scientists say is impossible. Like again, Avi Loeb, as far as he was concerned, this is impossible physics. But here's the problem. Now you have the proof. It's going to be interesting to see what someone like Avi Loeb says now. Okay, well, obviously somebody's figured some things out that we just don't have in our science books anywhere. That's what's going on here. So I think we're reaching the end game here. As far as I'm concerned, this is it. I mean, here's additional proof that in addition to everything else that we talk about on this podcast, I mean, how many different things do we need? How much more evidence do we need to have? I mean, it's over. This is over. I mean, what now? Chris Lehto doesn't say during his video that this is extraterrestrial or anything like that. He doesn't really get into that stuff. But he does provide a really good technical overview of that. But I mean, the conclusion you get when you walk away from it is, well, obviously this is something that we don't have. So obviously it must be somebody else has it. I don't think there's any human in the world that has objects that could fly around at 46,000 miles per hour, right? So the conclusion is that it's extraterrestrial, whatever you want to say, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, ultradimensional, I mean, whatever, right? There's something else here that's not human. And here we go. With this is it. The end game. Debunkers, they might as well just start packing it in now. We've reached the end game now. If you want to keep making yourself look stupid, because that's what you're going to do, I'm just, throwing that out there as some advice for a debunker, because it's over. This is a tough time. If you're a UFO debunker out there right now, this has to be very tough for you, because now you're going to, this is the kind of evidence. Now there's going to be more that's going to come out. I mean, of course they're not going to go away, right? Of course, I'm just being facetious here. There's going to be more things that keep cropping up, right? It's not going to end. The evidence is just going to keep piling up on the evidence that we already have. I mean, how many different things do we need? I mean, this is just additional proof. I mean, this is common sense. Common sense dictates that this is not human. This is obviously a non-human intelligence that is operating these objects. And think about it. Some of these objects are gigantic, right? Some of these objects, right? Well, 100 meters across in some sections, right? 328 feet. Flying around at 46,000 miles per hour. Think about that, right? That's what these astronomers have discovered. That there's objects up there, flying within the troposphere, right, and outside of the troposphere, that are traveling at unbelievable speeds, turning around, doing U-turns, right, stopping, moving, and then just keep going in a different direction. That's what they've discovered. So there we are. I mean, I don't know. It's funny, right? Now Chris's video was out according to YouTube here. It says it's premiered on January 20th. It is now January 24th, and I don't really see much on the internet about this. Right? There's really nothing out there. I don't see any of the major news networks anything covering this. That these Ukrainian UFOs are, obviously they're doing things that our aircraft can't do. I mean, you put two and two together, you come up with four, right? That's the way I see it, anyhow. I mean, you would think that this should be gigantic news, but then again, I thought that it was gigantic news recently when the Congress and the president approved that 2023 National Defense Authorization Act bill. I thought that was big news because there was whistleblower language in there, right? That would provide protection for anyone from the Pentagon or military-industrial complex who wants to meet with the Congress and tell them what they know. They wouldn't have to worry about any kind of repercussions. Nobody really talked about that either, so I guess they're not going to talk about this one either. Why should they? Instead, they'll sit there and snicker when somebody brings up UFOs. They'll bring people like Mick West out there where he'll just tell lies, right? He'll give you incomplete stories, right? Just to try to cover the whole thing up, to try to make it look like there's nothing really going on here. Right, so that's what they're gonna do. I don't see this should be giant news right now. I mean, this was 4 days ago from this moment that this video that Chris Lehto put out. Let's see, it has 84,000. It has 84,871 views from what I see right here. From the making of the podcast that I'm making right now. That video that he made should have 10 million views at this point, because basically he is actually reporting, although he doesn't say, but he is actually reporting evidence of the fact that there's obviously a non-human intelligence interacting, actually present on our planet. That's what he's reporting, as far as I'm concerned. That's what I see. But hey, mainstream media, they're out to lunch. They don't see it.